friends. Hello and welcome back to your own YouTube channel. Students, I know that all of you are missing the school, and trust me, even I am doing the same. But still, let's create the same energy filled atmosphere with lots of enthusiasm and fun like we had in the classroom when we were there for the offline classes. So, let's just start. Now today I am going to tell you a story. A story that is The Wrong House, which is there in your own English book. So let's get started. Now this story, Wrong House, has been written by James N. Young. So before we move ahead to the story, let's know something about the author. James N. Young was born in Texas and worked as a newspaper reporter in Los Angeles. During World War, he served in France and later on worked for 3 decades as an editor of Colors magazine. Now this story, Wrong House, is a light-hearted and amusing good read. The author has tried the element of suspense by not disclosing the details of the owner of the house. So as a reader, one will always be keen to know the subsequent events and get engrossed in the gripping storyline. So let's just begin. Well, according to my imagination, these are the 2 thieves. And as per your story, the 2 men might have looked something like this. So let's see what happens in the story. So 2 men ran quietly towards the house. One of them carried a small suitcase. When they reached the porch, they stopped and listened. The night was dark and silent. So now here, porch is a small area at the entrance of a house and it is covered by a roof. So these men have actually started searching for a house to hide. So let's see what happens next. Now, one of them took out a bunch of keys, and since they have reached a house, they just somehow managed to open the house with the master key bunch. As you can see in the picture, one of the thieves has a bunch of keys with him, and then he actually tries to open it, and they are lucky enough to find the right key to open the house. They entered. By the light of the torch, they examined the room. It was a large living room. The furniture was covered. Dust lay over everything. One of the men spoke. "Well, Blackie," he said, "looks as if the family is away on a holiday." They searched the house. There was no doubt the family was away. So these people, these thieves, have actually managed to get into a house, and since it was dark and it was an empty house, they searched the house and they just understood that this was the right place to hide for that night. So Hasty Hogan and Blackie Burns were in luck. As you can see in the picture, Hasty Hogan and Blackie Burns are the 2 thieves who have managed to get into a house and hide in for that night. Only once in the past 10 days had their luck failed them. It had been soon after they made their big robbery in that town on the coast. Blackie, who had been driving the car, ran over a policeman. So let me show you the next picture, which shows how they have actually right. Now here you can see that since they had to abandon their car because Blackie, who had been driving the car, ran over a policeman. Now you might be thinking, what does this word ran over a policeman? He did not actually run over a policeman. Instead, ran over is a phrase that means that he knocked a person down when he was driving, right? And drove over his body. So, in the other words, you can understand that he had actually done an accident. Now, so they had to abandon their car and run for their lives. Now, this word abandon here means that they had to leave their car there itself and just run away from that place. Now they were here in a new town, in a strange town without a car, but they had the suitcase. As you can see in the picture, there is a suitcase, and do you know what is there in this suitcase? It is full of $300,000 in it. So Hogan says, we have to get a car. We can't steal one. It's too dangerous. We have to buy one. So now these people are talking among each other because they have to find a hiding place first. Then they have to find a reliable place where they can hide this suitcase, and also they have to buy a new car for them for moving from one place to another. So the Blackie Burns says, but what are we going to do with the suitcase? Hasty says, hide it right here until we get a car. And so they hid the suitcase. And do you want to know where they hid the suitcase? Let me show you. So here, as I told you, they had ran over a policeman, and then they had to abandon their car, and then they came to a new town. Now, as you can see here, this place is actually known as a cellar. cellar, and it is quite different from the seller who sells something. So what did these people do? They hid the suitcase in the coal cellar and buried it in the pile of coal. Let me show you how. So this is the pile of coal, and this is how they have buried the suitcase inside it. Now, just before dawn, they stepped out. Now, dawn means when the sun is ready to come out, it is ready to rise. So, they stepped out that time. Say, Blackie, Hogan remarked, the name of the gentleman we are visiting is Samuel W. Rogers. So, Blackie says that, do you know, Hogan, the gentleman's house in which we are, his name is Mr. Samuel W. Rogers. Now, shortly after this, they go to an automobile showroom. Let me show you how. See, here they have reached an automobile showroom and they buy a new car for themselves. Now, after they have bought a new car, they have got a conveyance to move from here to there. So, they are in a hurry to go back and take their suitcase back that they had hidden in the coal cellar in the house. So they stopped the car a short distance from the house. Hogan got out and walked towards the house. 50 yards from the house, he stopped. The windows were open. The family had returned. Hogan thought quickly. Quick, he said to Burns, let's find a telephone. So as you can see, they have already bought a car and they have come up with an idea to get their suitcase back. So they quickly find a telephone booth. Now 10 minutes later, Hogan was consulting a telephone directory. Now this telephone directory is a big book in which the people residing in the country, their names and their numbers are mentioned in the form of a list. Yes, there it was. Samuel W. Rogers, Plainview 6329. This was the address. A moment later, he was talking to Mr. Rogers. "Hello, is this Mr. Rogers? Mr. Samuel Rogers?" "Yes, this is Mr. Rogers." Hogan cleared his throat. "Mr. Rogers," he said in a sharp official tone, "this is police headquarters. I am Simpson, Sergeant Simpson of the Detective Division." "Yes, yes," came the reply. The chief of police, Hogan said, has ordered me to get in touch with you. He's sending me out with one of our men to see you." "Am I in trouble of some kind?" asked Mr. Rogers. No, nothing like that. But I have something of importance to talk to you about." "Very well," said Mr. Rogers. And Mr. Rogers, Hogan continued, "Please keep quiet about this. Don't say anything to anybody." Now, after this, Hogan explained his idea to Burns. Within 10 minutes, Sergeant Simpson and Detective Johnson were speaking to Mr. Rogers. So as you can see in the picture, these two thieves have disguised themselves as Sergeant Simpson and Detective Johnson, and they have reached the house back. And now, as you can see in the picture, they are going to have a talk with Mr. Rogers. Now, Mr. Rogers was a small man. He was a short-heighted man, and he was nervous, a badly frightened man. Hogan told Mr. Rogers the whole story, the whole fake story. Mr. Rogers was delighted to be of help. Together, he and Hogan dug up the suitcase. So, as you can see in the picture, Hogan has explained the whole story, the fake story, and they have managed to convince Mr. Rogers to take them to the cellar, coal cellar, where they had just hid their suitcase. They took it to the living room and opened it. So, as you can see here, they have reached the coal cellar, taken their money back, their suitcase back, and they have again reached back to the room. Now, they took it to the living room and opened it. All the money was there, safe. And now Mr. Rogers, Hogan announced in his best official manner, "Johnson and I must run along. The chief wants a report. We have to catch the best of the robbers. I will be in touch." He picked up the suitcase and rose. Burns also rose. Rose here means that they might have been sitting there and they just got up from their place. Mr. Rogers also rose. The three men walked to the door. Mr. Rogers opened it. "Come on in, boys," he said pleasantly. And in walked three men in actual police uniform. "So, what does this mean, Mr. Rogers?" asked Hogan. "It's quite simple," said Mr. Rogers. "I am the chief of police." So, I hope that the climax was good enough for you to enjoy it a lot. So, the real police had come and caught these thieves. Now, the title, "The Wrong House," is completely justified as the robbers happened to hide the suitcase filled with money in the house of the chief of police. They had presumed that they were hiding it in a safe house from where they could retrieve it easily after buying a car. The irony was that the fun in this whole story was that they told a concocted story, a fake story about a theft to the chief of police only. So, the house they chose definitely turned out to be wrong for them. Now, the characters in the story. Hasty Hogan and Blackie Burns, they were skilled burglars, they were skilled thieves who used to collectively plan and win the game of stealing. They knew all the thieves' tactics minutely, and they were shrewd enough to escape from the police as well. So the author has selected their names according to the individual's characteristics. Blackie Burns had surely burnt his life by driving a car over a policeman, whereas Hasty Hogan, in his haste, did not check the house properly and landed in police custody at the end. So, this justifies the names that have been given to the characters here in the story. And Mr. Rogers was a wise man. He acted smart and did not disclose his identity hurriedly. Now, since I have already told the story to you, you might have enjoyed the story and would have understood it quite well. In case you have any doubts, you can get back to me on my WhatsApp and just clarify your doubts. Hope you have enjoyed this story. You can also read the summary of the story in my video here that I have shared with you. So do enjoy watching the video and just understand the story well. In case you have liked my video and you have understood the story, please do not forget to like my video and also subscribe to the channel so that you can just get all the notifications whenever I post a new video. So with this, thank you. अब एक बार सुने क्या हुआ.